now, part 2 of Carnival Personnel's Sideshow, Blackjack.
How many years were you on the team, do you think? How many years was this your thing?
So I was affiliated with the team probably for 9 or 10 years.
Wow.
But
so
I-
long
yeah.
after grad school.
Yeah, so I played actively for about 3 years. There were about 3 years where I was playing at the intensity I'm talking about here, and that was during grad school. Then after that, I continued to play every now and then, and I would train people. I liked doing training. So I would show up, and I was always interested in training new people and go on trips here and there. But I really started to want to develop my non-blackjack life, like the real life. Blackjack was like at that point kind of a hobby, and I liked investing because there were good returns to be had. Mm-hmm. And so I would I kept my affiliation with it through the opening of Foxwoods, which I was at the day it opened, which I believe for some reason I remember being maybe Valentine's Day 1992 or something, something like that. Look it up on Wikipedia.
And so when you were on the team in those 3 years, what do you think the team was? 10 people, 20 people?
About a dozen people for the most part. When Foxwoods opened, the leadership of the team, and this story is told in one of the documentaries or the movie or something. There's a reenactment of this lunch, which is really interesting. A few guys got together and had lunch and said, let's kind of form this big team of people because we'll be so close to a casino. And that lunch in the TV show or movie that I saw it portrayed, there's 3 people there, but there were actually 4 people there because I was there. I'm like, oh, I know that lunch. I was actually there with those guys talking about this. And that was the basis for a very larger, more formally organized team. It was actually like a real LLC, limited liability corp and everything. Mm-hmm. And that started around. So that was a larger group that swelled up to like 30, 40 people at least. But generally, the team was like a dozen people.
Did you have to be affiliated with MIT?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
It was, an MIT-centered activity, but we had people from other schools or people who were just, regular people who weren't affiliated with the university in any way.
And okay. Were you going to ask something, Joe?
I was going to say that Foxwoods did add game tables in 1992. I think officially they opened in 86, but for your all intents and purposes, the real casino opened in 92.
So I had that, and do you have the date?
No, it doesn't have the date.
Oh, darn. Okay,
Yeah.
well...
I'll take your word for
92.
it.
92. Well, to us in Blackjackville, it didn't exist until 92.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
Like, the fact that a place existed, like we were so focused on just the gambling aspects of the places we went. Like I went to Vegas and I'd never seen the Hoover. I probably went to Vegas 20 times before I saw the Hoover Dam or the Red Rocks outside of town or played golf there, or did any of the things that normal people do.
Yeah, you were there for
we were just there. I mean, you were,
working.
we used to teach people, there's one thing you're there for. You're there to make money.
Right.
Honestly, you'll do, but
it's like you were a band on tour. Like you basically go to the venue, you play, and then you get on your tour bus and split or whatever. You go to the next town.
Yeah. Right. Now we enjoyed it. I want to say I enjoyed it. I liked, it was one of the cool things about it is it was like this way to be around something cool that you normally would feel guilty about, but you didn't have to feel guilty because you were there to make money. So I could hang out in the casino. That was cool. It was interesting, but make no mistake, we were there to win money and play. So even though almost every time I was in Vegas, I could go eat for free at any restaurant I would want to, like the most fancy gourmet restaurant. I could eat for free. I could get a reservation whenever I wanted. I could have the most expensive wines. Like we'd order bottles of wine, and the rare occasions I did it where they'd have to call. They'd be like, well, that wine, we're going to have to call them and see if we can give it to you for free.
The comp, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, call, and they'd be like, oh, absolutely, but, here you go, and I mean, if you know anything, I didn't know anything about wine before I played blackjack, but, Chateau Margaux, Chateau de Cam, dessert wine, stuff like that.
I know is something this year.
Anyway, all I'll tell you is the point is, I could have done that every night I was in Vegas, and I did it almost never. Usually dinner was like room service at 3 a.m. that some, you didn't even want to take the time to order. We'd like argue over who had to order the room service. Like generally, if you're like the younger person, like the rookie, it's like, it wasn't about paying because it's all free, but it'd be like, you order it. And it's like, what do you want? Figure it out. Like I don't have time for this. Like we were so busy playing and we got to know what everyone would eat. Like I can still remember to this day, I can remember what, Mr. Z would eat in Vegas and what Mr. Z would eat, because we were just always, it was like you, and I would often go at Caesar's Palace. I would go, instead of the fanciest place, I'd go to this little deli they had where you could like get a hot dog. And that was free too, but I would go stand there and eat my hot dog and then go back to play because I was there to play, not to see shows and eat dinners and stuff like that.
Now, so you mentioned Caesar. Are you banned from Caesar?
Yes.
And and I don't remember. I think I know where I heard the story from. For you can verify it. Did SolidWorks not have a convention at Caesars, and you had to get written permission from like the CEO or the president that said you could be on the premises? Because SolidWorks had like conventions that 10,000 people would go to.
Well, yes, this is a true story. I can tell you. So we were having our convention. 5,000. CAD fans were coming to Vegas for our convention.
Are they called caddies?
That's funny, actually. Caddies, that would be a good one. No, they're not. Although it is interesting that in my career, CAD has become a verb. This is another little sidebar. It used to be just a noun, as in, we made a CAD system, or our system has CAD, data management and collaboration features or something. But then over the years, it became a verb, and I started to hear particularly young people say, "Oh, I'm going to go CAD that up," or I was CADing all night last night, or I have to go CAD something now.
Like Google,
yeah, like Google. It was really cool to see it become a verb in my lifetime. But anyway, back to the story. So we were having this convention. And it was going to be at Caesars, only 5,000 people, so pretty big event there. And
it's kind of like a Beyond It show.
Right.
And
thank you very much.
What?
His band. Beyond
your band. Okay. And my friend, at that point, I was in my cushy group executive job, which was really a great job because I got to go to these events and like either give speeches or just show up, and all these people would come up to me and want to talk to me about how wonderful the software was, and I get to see what the products they built, and I didn't have to be CEO, and so anyway, the message is
like Magic Johnson retiring because he didn't want to do the hard work, he just wanted to show up and be Magic.
I did it a little bit better than he did.
You would have to.
I don't want to. Anyway, so the convention is coming up, and this guy, my friend, who is in management at that point at the company, he knows that I'm barred there, and he knows the convention's coming up, and he says, you could get like kicked out. And I go, they're not really going to know who I am. And he's like, your name's in the program, like you're well, you're part of the company. It's pretty visible. So he asked our marketing person to get special permission so I could go. And so I have this letter, and it's like, it says to whom it may concern, I'm writing to acknowledge, it's not like Caesar's letterhead. I'm writing to acknowledge that John Hirschtick is permitted to attend this convention on these dates, and he may not. He's allowed to be at the hotel, but he may not gamble nor hang out in the casino. Please keep this letter on his person at all times. Signed,
That's fantastic.
So and so, VP of operations or general manager or something. So there's a post-it on the letter from the marketing person. She says, "Dear John, here is your get out of jail free card or something, or your letter." She says, "Again, make sure you keep it with you at all times. Signed, Stacy." And then she writes, "P.S. It wasn't easy." This is what's sitting on my desk, So I went to the event.
That should be framed, like literally.
I'm just picturing John showing up at the event and then a security guard recognizing you and then giving you a hard time, and you go, "Wait a minute, I got a note.
I got this note."
Yeah.
Actually, so
like Epstein's mother.
So I call this friend of mine. I go, "Our convention's going to be in Vegas." He lives in Vegas, and to this day lives in Vegas, and still gambles with an advantage in different ways. And anyway, back when we were having the convention, I said, hey, we're going to have the convention in Vegas. Why don't you stop by and say hi? And he goes, yeah, great. That'll be great. And I said, just, I'll tell you what, I'll set you up with a complimentary badge and registration. He goes, oh, I won't need registration. He's like, I could get into your conference without registration. It's just kind of the kinds of things that go on in my circle of friends. I think I did get him a badge, but I have absolutely no doubt that he would not have needed me to do anything to work his way into our convention.
The perks.
Now tell me about the story. There was what was the bag of money that was left behind?
Oh, you really did your research here.
Well, I'll tell you, we've talked about this before, and I'll tell you the 1 degree of separation. Why?
Okay, so the story about the money in the classroom. So in my later part, where I'm just kind of an investor and I'm on like the management, and training group, I have a real life. We would meet and, do all this stuff, practicing and everything. So one day, I still remember, I was in the bathroom getting ready in the morning. I had the radio on in the bathroom. I'd come out of the shower or whatever. It's the news, like WBZ News or something. And I still remember the guy comes on the radio and he, it's one of the stories. He goes, and still no word about the $25,000 found in a paper bag at MIT last night. I look at my wife, who knows, it's all part of the team. I look at her and she looks at me and I'm like, oh my gosh, this has to have something to do with our team. So I go right over the phone and I call up Mr. X, the guy I was talking about earlier, one of the lead people who was still at that time, all those years later, still one of the lead people. I go, hello. He goes, hello. And I said, I just heard this story about the money in the classroom. And I said, please tell me it wasn't our team. And he goes, it was. And I said, which idiot left the money in the classroom? And he says, I did.
Oh, man.
I'm like, you did. Like, he's like the senior guy. And he had this imposing way about him, like, the way, which was healthy in a way, but he was very like critical, very short on praise, a little bit Bill Belichickian, like I still remember when I was testing this guy one day. I was in the casino and I finished and he was watching me, which made me really nervous, checking me out. And I finished and he said, good. And I still remember, I was like, wow, that's like the first word of praise the guy said to me in 6 months. And so there he is, and he left the money in the classroom. So that's the story.
And the 1 degree of separation, for years, my uncle is the head of the facilities. And he got the phone call from the janitor saying, what do I do with this? And I think my uncle said, why the fuck did you call and tell anybody you found it, dumbass? It's like, but seriously, it's like, so I've known it from like the other side, and the guy who found it, like, a lifer there and stuff like that. I mean, honestly, it's a good shop. I mean, everybody there is friendly. I worked 2 summers on the grounds crew at MIT through college, which was great. And all the old dinosaurs who have been there forever, great guys. It's like, $25,000 is what the guy was bringing home that year, and he could have brought it home that night, but no, he called, and basically my uncle's like, well, if you've told people now, I can't tell you to just take it home, you dummy, but yeah, we'll just turn it in. Wow. So,
oh yeah, well, and the thing is, there's so many businesses that are cash businesses. Like, we had a guy on the team, and he said, I don't really find this money really imposing. He said, I used to carry the receipts across Disneyland at night. Is like, it was like he worked there in summers when he was in college or something, and he'd be like, we'd be carrying like $1 million. Wow.
No, it's a big thing at Disney, and you can tell who's carrying the money now and stuff like that. They try to do it discreetly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like,
are they just leaving a trail of sweat?
Pretty much. Like, because management had a friend who did that. Okay, so the final question, and this is probably the biggest question, and you've probably answered it 1,000 times, so you're ready for this. What did you learn at the blackjack table that helped you launch SolidWorks and the other ventures that you've taken on in life? Are there correlations between?
Yeah, there's it's a great question, Jacques, because there is a bunch of things I learned at blackjack that really help in business, and in no particular order. One is that sometimes you can be successful doing something even if everyone else says it's impossible. That's an important lesson to learn, because when I joined the blackjack team, my friends were all like, "Oh, this is a scam. It can't work. My brother-in-law's dentist's uncle's auto mechanic goes to Vegas all the time,
Mike.
and they,
He's talking about Mike.
you know what I'm saying? Like they're like an expert, like a friend of a friend of a friend of mine is like a total expert on gambling, and they said it'll never work, and you'll get kicked out. They just want to scam your money, and they're all. Nobody said to me, "Oh, this is going to be awesome. You're going to make money, and years from now, you'll be a guest on Carnival Personnel podcast."
Talk about a deterrent.
Talk about fame and fortune coming your way. But no, nobody said that to me. Zero people said that to me. What they said was, "Don't do it." So how does that come about in business? Well, when I started OnShape, when I started SolidWorks, when I advised people, there's a lot of people who say it's a bad idea. I mean, people told me with both companies, they told me not to start it. They told me the same things both times with SolidWorks and OnShape. It's impossible to build. The market's saturated. No one will ever switch. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And so Blackjack helped me understand that, you can pilot your way through those and find successful situations. Another thing it helped me understand was something we touched on before about winning and losing. Like you can be playing right and still lose, and you can be playing wrong and still win. And you have to wait to get into the long run to really judge what's going on. And most people don't understand how much variance there is in a situation and how long you have to wait to really see the true strategy.
It's like like investing in stocks almost. It's sort of like you have to play the long game.
You have to play the long game. Well, some people play the short game in stocks in different ways, but it comes into play with judging people and ideas because it's really tempting sometimes. You'll see a person in business and they happen to run a campaign or build a product that didn't succeed. It doesn't mean they're not playing well. It just means they got a little unlucky. And you have to kind of understand, everyone understands not to judge the world by one event usually, and people not to judge a person by one action.
Have you been on Twitter lately? Because it's kind of the way of the world now.
Are you following the Robert Kraft situation at all?
Yeah, well, that would be more like a poker hand that he ought to fold. But that's another thing. But anyway, so that's another lesson I learned. The other lesson I learned is when you have the advantage, get the money out. That's something that Mr. Y told me. I won't say names. Early in my career, I said, I've noticed that the people who are best technically don't always win the most money. Why is that? I would think the people who are best at counting cards would win the most money. He said, it's not just about how well you count the cards. It's about finding good situations. When you have them, get the bet out. Get the money in action. It sounds like a simple idea, but you have to have the confidence that, when the situation isn't right, don't bet. But when the situation is right, make sure you bet enough.
I heard once that you have to know when to hold them.
And hold on. I'm going through my notes.
Yeah,
but you also have to know when to fold them.
Right.
And know when to walk away and know when to run.
Right. But then you never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
Because, as I used to tell people in training, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealer's done.
Wow.
Literally, I would tell people, so this is a real lesson. I'd say, look, when the dealer's dealing the hand, you're trying to count it all. And sometimes you want to look away. You want to talk to the floor person. And so if you're at the first seat at the table at Blackjack, nothing will happen. Those cards will not move until you make your decision. So you don't have to. When they're dealing, if you're at the first seat, now if you're in the middle of the table, you could lose some cards. But if you're at the first seat, which I like to sit in for reasons I won't get into with you here, there's very good reasons for that. If I'm sitting at the first seat at the table, I know when they're dealing, I can look away. I don't have to be counting the cards when they're dealing. I can be talking, making eye contact with the employee or looking at the sports game because I know that when the dealing's done, I'll have a moment before I decide to hit stand, double, or split my hand where I can look at all the cards and do my counting then.
Yep.
So I used to literally use that line in training.
Now, say I have 20, right?
Yeah.
And the dealer is showing 19. Should I hit?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just learned something.
Yeah. Well, you knew that. However, I can bait you into asking me about a true story where you're probably, if you had hard 19, okay, like a 10 and a 9, okay, you have hard 19. Have you ever seen anyone double that? Because I have doubled it. And I happen to have, when I doubled it, I happen to have a bet that was table limit of $1,000 out. And you're going to think, why would he do that?
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Me neither. I'm nodding and smiling.
All right.
I'm nodding and
I
smiling.
admit it.
You don't know. You don't know. You've never played blackjack.
It's been years.
I mean, I know the basic rules of blackjack. I don't even know anything about insurance,
Hey, look,
like
splitting.
And
all I know is that in 2019, with Me Too, if a woman says "hit me," you still got to get written consent.
I'm making that louder in post production. And I might add like a rim shot or something else to accentuate. Or crickets. There we go.
All right. So explain to us dumbasses.
So you have a hard 19.
Well, this may be too much here in the pod. I don't want your podcast to run on all day, but generally you don't double 19 because most cards will cause you to bust.
Right.
But if you get a 2
on both, yeah.
Yeah. Now I will tell you that you think, some people think, they were cheating or something. There's no cheating involved. It's just being very skillful about observing everything you can at the table. And with that, I'll end this story. It'd just be too much to try and explain all this.
But you're basically playing,
especially to guys who didn't even understand what doubling.
My guess is that in that situation, if you're doubling on 19, and you're ultra confident that the next card is going to be a 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And you might say, how could you be ultra confident? That is outside the scope of this, probably. Right. But
we would
can assure you
some sort of hallucinogenic to expand our minds.
It was not cheating or marked cards or anything like that. It was something that that you could do at the table if you observe carefully and you are very thoughtful and skilled.
Yep.
And you get the right circumstances.
Right. Which
are very, 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 very rare.
Basically,
that's why I've only done that once in my career.
Do you remember what the hand paid out?
$1,000. Well, actually, excuse me, $2,000
because you had the maximum end.
Yeah, nice. And it turned out I was betting 2 hands, and on the first hand I had a 19, and the second hand I had 11. Each had $1,000. So I doubled down on both of them, so I would have had $4,000 at $2,000 in each hand. And I honestly can't remember. Whether I won or lost. I mean, the 21 I would have at worst tied that. Or actually, I'm trying to think if it was late exposure, I might have lost one bet if the dealer had blackjack. But we're getting into
the minutia, the weeds.
The minutia, yeah. Late. Anyway,
so. We should have been playing blackjack while the
whole time, right?
Yeah,
because I can focus on 2 things at once. Clearly,
actually, my friends and I, when we used to practice counting cards, we could count and bet and have this kind of discussion while we were playing, no problem.
Joe's still helping me get through the walk chewing gum thing. It's not going well.
Yeah, it's walking and chewing gum. So,
chewing. Okay,
yeah,
see,
right at the same time. I was just going to ask. So, when was the last time you've been in a casino and playing in the casino?
The last time I've been in a casino was probably when I was at a business conference in Vegas. I'm thinking about a year ago.
Okay, but you were, and then you actually sat down and played blackjack, the old standby.
If I did, I might have played a couple hands just for fun. But usually, I don't play much, or I play craps with my business friends. It's hard for me to get involved in blackjack. If I walk in just for a few casual hands, it's like hard to do that. But I might if I'm with a friend who wants to play for a little bit.
Were you ever a poker player?
A very bad one.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
So am I.
I do.
We're
like
twins.
I like playing, but I don't think I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah. It's a completely different skill set.
I have a son who's very interested, who shows to me an aptitude at poker. Like I've talked to several of my kids about poker from time to time, and they're sort of interested in play here and there and whatever. But I have one of my children who started talking to me about it, and my ears perked up because while I'm not an expert, I know the kind of thinking that leads you to good outcomes. You know what I mean? Like the way he was thinking about the game, it wasn't just simplistic. He was, without having any real training, he was already thinking. I'm like, we can nurture this. So it's like sending Luke to Dagobah. You know, the Force is strong in this one.
Jacques has no idea what you're talking about.
See, I know.
Dega.
So I call up this guy I know who is still. This guy is a what we call these days they call an advantage player in Vegas. There's this whole thing about people who really gamble very well for a living in different things beyond just blackjack.
Right.
And when I say gamble well, I don't mean they're lucky. I mean they use mathematics and systems to win, and in all kinds of ways. And there's actually, I heard there's a documentary now about sports bettors. I don't know if that covers.
There's
these
a reality
people.
show that they've talked about on sports.
So anyway, this guy I call up, I kind of know some of these people still. So I send him an email, or I might have, I sent him an email. I said, look, I got to ask you a favor. I got one of my kids, you know, he's got the right orientation. I want to nurture this. I said, give me the right steps. So this is somebody who's actually, among many other gambling achievements, has won money in the World Series of Poker. Not won the whole tournament, but, you know, knows their way around. So this advice is going to, you know, be good advice. And he said, here's what I would do. I'd start with this. I'd do this. I'd read this book. And when you're done with this book, read this book and then call me. You know? And he's like, by this point, you know, and he gave me a few more comments, but I felt I was able to get like really good input from someone who I would say the judgment is likely to be quite good on how to nurture this little talent I sense in one of the kids.
Yeah.
Nice. This was great. A lot more information than I think
Than you cared to hear.
No.
That we can actually retain.
Or your listeners. Right. I'm going to guess that 0 listeners would still be on. They would have said
no,
this guy
because
is so
a lot of our friends are aren't big gamblers, but go to Vegas and stuff like that. It's very interesting. And
I was just going to ask, I think earlier you alluded to like sort of tips and tricks about playing the game and what to do. And do you have one final thing that you could probably?
Oh yeah. The easiest way. The easiest way for most people to improve their game, okay, is to learn basic strategy. So nobody should learn to count cards unless they've learned basic strategy. And basic strategy, you can find in a lot of books. You can find it online. If you're really desperate for it, you can contact Jacques, and I'll get him a chart. But it's a chart of what to do on every possible hand at blackjack. So for every possible hand, like if you have 13 and the dealer has a 6, there is a mathematically optimal decision. It's not a matter of opinion. Okay. And if people want to learn that chart, and you don't even have to memorize it. You can have the chart in your hand at the table in the casino. They sell them in the gift shop.
Really?
Yes. That will take you from what is the average player does not play very well. It will take you almost to break even.
Okay.
You won't win money. You will lose all your money, but you'll lose it very slowly. Okay. As far as I know, people may have other systems, because I always get people saying to me, well, I have another system, John. It's based on this, this, and this. Well, maybe there's other systems. But I will tell you that if you learn basic strategy, if you learn this one chart of all the hands and learn what to do, and you're willing to follow it, which can be boring, you will lose money at such a low rate that you'll probably make more in comps and freebies. Like they'll give you free dinner, or they'll give you a credit for dinner or something. You really can get close just on that. Card counting is much harder to learn and will get you a much smaller amount better, but it's the important part that gets you into the profitable zone. Okay, so I'm not suggesting like nobody here should run out. If you're looking for quick advice, learn basic strategy. That will get you, like I say, have you ever heard the golf story? People say in golf, you drive for show and you putt for dough. You ever heard that phrase? You guys golfers or anything?
No.
You get the point, though. You get the point. It means people want to talk about how far they drive the ball, but really putting really matters. So I say in blackjack, you count cards for show, but you learn basic strategy for dough. You know, like learning basic strategy. There's one tip I'd give your listeners. It's get a good basic strategy chart and either memorize it or just bring it with you into the casino. If you're embarrassed about it, put on a little laminated card. And nobody
that says
will,
not strategy guide.
no one will kick you out. Oh yeah, you can say, oh, I'm using this chart. I'm gonna kick ass, and they'll say, welcome to the casino.
Right.
You know? And most people don't have the discipline to stick with it. But anyway, that's the advice I would give. The quick advice: learn basic strategy. Don't start with counting. Don't start with counting. If you know basic strategy perfectly, I mean, 0 mistakes in 1,000 hands perfectly. Okay, or 10,000 hands. 0 mistakes, not one. Like if you make a mistake, that's like driving through the stop sign on your driver's test. That's it. Immediate failure.
Start over.
So when you can do basic strategy, thousands of hands with 0 errors, 0, then you're ready to start counting cards. Only then.
That's where I'm really good at Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, well, you are really good at stuff like that.
Sadly.
I mean, esports. I mean, in that same breath, esports is almost like the dedication that professional esports players
it's crazy.
have is almost like what you're talking about. With
I think it's
blackjack.
probably much harder.
Yeah,
when you hear these-
because they're not earning the money. They're not even making money while they're playing the esports when they're learning to play.
Like
guess
blackjack, we didn't learn money. I mean, I probably spent 1,000 hours playing blackjack.
Yeah,
to learn
in a classroom.
In a classroom, and at home, dealing
Right.
to myself. Talk about boring.
Can you learn on computer?
I don't know. We didn't have that option.
I mean, now, do you think like if you were just playing against the computer?
I think you could learn a lot on the computer, but a lot of what allows you to play good blackjack for a long period of time, and I used to teach people, is sort of understanding, all the little things that go on in the real casino environment and learning what to tune out and what to focus on. So I think, I imagine you could learn a lot, but you can't really learn, in my opinion, to be a pro by doing it all on a computer screen. If your objective is to play a casino game,
right.
And ultimately also you have to worry a lot if you're going to be a pro about how you look while you're playing. Like, for instance, if you learn at the computer screen and you say the count out loud,
right?
Like
if you have a tell or a tick or something.
Yeah, because like learning to count out loud is a pretty neat way to learn to count. Sometimes you're like, okay, let's do it together. If I was training you, I'd say, okay, now 1, 2, and you start saying, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you start talking about it, and then I'll tell people, just don't get into a habit,
right?
Because you don't want to be sitting there in casino.
1, 2,
yeah, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6.
How accurate was Rain Man? When
The cool thing about Rain Man, and here we are. I mean, this is going to be like a double episode.
Oh,
You're going to have to break this podcast into part 1 and part 2. But the cool thing about Rain Man is, I don't remember it being particularly accurate in how you win, because they portrayed the instant win, like as does the 21 movie. Like, we sit down, we play, we guarantee to win money. That's not how it works.
In Rain Man, it was more about he was a phenom and he had autism.
Yeah, you don't need to be now. Maybe if you're a phenom, you can. That's another system. But as I told you earlier, you don't need to be a phenom. But the cool part about Rain Man that was pretty accurate is the room he stayed in. Do you remember that?
Oh, the large suite.
The suite?
Yeah.
Been there. Okay.
That's awesome.
Been there. I've
What
been in the
hotel
suite.
was that?
That was at Caesars. And we'd been in, I don't know if I've been in that exact room, but I've been in those rooms. I've been in hotel suites at Caesars that have 2 floors. Where you walk in and it's big double doors, and it's like, it was just fun. It'd be like, oh, what did you get? Like, we'd all have rooms somewhere. It's like, well, who got the best room? And be like, well, I got this at this place, and I got this nice suite at Caesars. Yeah, let's go check it out. We go up there, and it's like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Well, someone's in the bathroom. Well, find another one. It's like you just keep walking, and pianos and whirlpool tubs, and it was. But again, it'd be like, okay, that's cool. Let's go play.
Back to business.
Back to business.
This was absolutely fantastic, John. Thank you 1,000 times over. We will have you back to talk more about CAD and the cloud and how everything has moved forward. But maybe not. I don't know.
One last thing.
Funny.
There's a potential casino opening up in
that's right.
Massachusetts.
It's really opening, I think.
Well, they're right. They're still reviewing and giving.
Yeah.
They haven't got their license. You never know around these parts.
Well, there's one, the one
Wackier
open
things.
in Springfield, and
But,
and,
yeah.
and
The
Everett
Encore.
doesn't
Yeah, you're
want
talking-
to lose
yeah.
out.
The Encore one.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Will you be tempted to visit?
I doubt I'd visit to play blackjack seriously.
Right.
And but I might visit, like, when my son turns 21 and wants to go play poker there, I might take him over or something, or I might go over for a show or dinner, or maybe Jacques will take me over there for buy me a drink or something.
I despise casinos.
Oh.
I had to go to Vegas probably 25 times in my life, and a couple times was fine. I can honestly say with a lot of pride, I've never once lost in Vegas because I've never gambled. But
Good
yeah,
for you.
Casinos are
Good for you.
not like, they just depress the hell out of me. Just absolutely depress me. Because I remember, like, I would have to go there usually, ironically, for hockey tournaments, and always business related. Like different companies I work for, I used to have to, or a client wanted me to go play a tournament or something like that. I would go. And I remember one time specifically, you had to go through the casino to get, to the rink. And we probably had a game at like 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Friday. Go play 2 hours, shower, sit in the locker room, have a few beers, and come back out. And the same old ladies who they had, you couldn't tell, they had their oxygen tank hooked up to them. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
And some necklace thing where their card was in the slot machine, and they hadn't moved in the 6 hours. Or there was, I remember one time, when you would play these tournaments, you would have games around the clock type thing. And we would have a game at like, I don't know, like 11 o'clock at night and come out like 4 or 5 a.m. And the same people are still there. And it's just, and then again, I mean, the with me in Vegas, it's like, I can't afford the hookers, and I can't stand cigarette smell, and I don't gamble, so it's not my town, like, at all. So I guess it's different now, because I don't know, here might be different, but even now in Vegas, I had to go there to work a NASCAR thing a couple of years ago, and I will bring different clothes just to walk through the lobby, because it smells like so...
You should have.
So
you
disgusting.
never went in the old days. So
Yeah.
you're only in the non-smoking era, and it
No,
still
that's
smells.
what I'm talking.
Oh yeah,
early 90s
But I mean,
and stuff.
oh okay, because I mean in the 80s, you would
Disgusting.
Oh yeah, I
Well,
know
it's
what you mean.
still
The
like-
first
right.
night I went to Atlantic City, I went to sleep, and I remember I used my sweater as a pillow because they were like. This was before we were getting all the comps and everything. There were like 11 of us in a hotel room, that kind of stuff. And so I remember going to sleep with my sweater as like a pillow for me, and it reeked of cigarette smoke. But hey, that's why, as I said earlier, blackjack was a really fun chapter in life. But for me, it was something I did mostly when I was a young grad student as this interesting thing to earn some money and learn and travel a bit and all that. But it ain't real life, and it ain't anything I want to keep doing. And I have to say, I'm much happier with my life in my career, building great tools for people to build better products in the world than what I'm doing now. And I really mean it. And there's no cigarette smoke involved in that. And, the casino thing was an interesting thing, like a lot of things we do.
But it was a great chapter.
Yeah,
You
it was
learned
a great
a lot.
chapter, yeah.
It's a great story.
It wasn't anything to build a life around.
Right. If it's one thing that I hate, it's living in the past and not being able to move on. And oh, wait a minute.
As we look around this room, video games from the early 80s.
This is an awesome room.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should probably wrap up because it's midnight. We got.
Now we got to do the regular podcast. Now, John, thank you so much for coming by. This was absolutely great. If there's anything you want us to throw up on the web, the Facebook page or the Twitter or any of the information that you have that you want us to post, let us know. But this was a lot of fun.
Well, Joe and Jacques, thank you for having me. It's. I think I had the most fun reliving some exciting memories.
And with that, Jacques and John, I would just have to venture to say, please don't forget